You simply made a casual, careless comment, remarking that married women were by far the most captivating and irresistible. Who could have guessed that a single second later, a lifelong bachelor would be reincarnated, straight into the body of an absolute scumbag of a husband? This guy was a violent, abusive tyrant, yet somehow he managed to marry a famous pop star adored by millions. And she had even given birth to his unbelievably sweet and obedient little girl. However, ever since they got married, he had suddenly been fired from his company. It's all because of a jinx curse like you. You're the sole reason I lost my job like this. You couldn't help but sigh in disgust, realizing your predecessor was a complete, utter bastard. Right now, the mother and daughter had just been subjected to that scoundrel's violent outburst, and were currently huddled on the sofa, trembling in sheer terror. Shin Yosuwa held her daughter in a tight, protective embrace. When she noticed you staring intently at her, she instinctively clutched little Wan even closer to her chest, her eyes completely filled with welling tears. It wasn't that she had never thought about taking Wan and running away, but she was an orphan with nowhere to go. On top of that, every single cent of their household money was controlled by that abusive monster. You, watching the two of them shuddering in absolute terror, you let out a heavy sigh, blaming yourself for letting things escalate to this point. 29, slowly rising to your feet, you switched on a light, after which he slowly stood up and switched on the light. A warm, soothing orange glow radiated outward, illuminating every corner of the darkened room. Looking at the total chaotic mess scattered before your eyes, you scratched your head in utter helplessness. The very first thing you did was swing open the window to let fresh air flow in, before silently cleaning up the empty liquor bottles strewn across the floor. Shin Yosol remained curled up on the sofa, holding Wan tightly and not daring to make a single move. Yet, a subtle flicker of deep surprise flashed across her eyes. Instead of rushing to disturb the mother and daughter, you walked into the kitchen, grabbed a rag, and wiped down the tables and chairs. By the time you had finished tidying up, leaving the entire house spotless without a speck of dust, beads of sweat were dripping down your forehead. You then went into the bedroom to grab a set of clean clothes. Before stepping directly into the bathroom, Shin Yoso stared at the firmly closed bathroom door, and her tense, rigid body finally let out a long breath of relief, gazing around at the clean, immaculate room that you had just thoroughly organized before her eyes. Her face was filled with utter disbelief and profound suspicion. This terrifying man, why on earth did he suddenly have such a complete change of heart? Mommy, I'm so hungry. Wan, be a good girl. Just hold on a bit longer, and Mommy will cook for you real soon, okay? Shin Yosoa gently stroked Wan's head, whispering softly that she could only wait until you fell fast asleep, before she would dare venture out to cook a meal for herself and her child. At that moment, the bathroom door swung open and you stepped out. The mother and daughter, huddled together on the small, worn-out sofa, instinctively cowered backward all at once. Shaking your head, you paid them no mind and simply pushed the front door open to step outside. Shin Yosua froze, her eyes completely brimming with utter despair. Is he going out to buy more liquor again? Was everything he drank tonight still not enough? Wan and I will have to go hungry for the entire night again. Shin Yosua bit her lower lip hard, as tears streamed down her cheeks endlessly. Mommy, please don't cry. Mommy, I'm really not hungry anymore, I promise. Wan foolishly believed that her complaining about hunger was what had made her mother burst into tears. The little girl hurriedly reached out her soft, pale little hands to wipe away the teardrops staining Shin Yosua's face. Shin Yosua bit her lip even harder as her tears fell like heavy rain. Moments latte. She used a trembling, infinitely gentle voice to coax Wan, be a good girl. Let Mommy lull you to sleep, okay? Once you're asleep, you won't feel hungry anymore. Tomorrow morning, Mommy will wake up super early and cook something delicious for you. How does that sound? Okay, Mommy. Mommy, please don't be sad. Shin Yosua softly hummed a gentle lullaby, lulling Wan into a deep, peaceful slumber. Watching Wan slowly close her tired eyes, Shin Yosua thought back on everything she had endured over 2 years of marriage, her heart overflowing with unimaginable bitterness. In the end, she finally made up her mind to leave this hellish living nightmare tomorrow. She'd rather wander the streets outside homeless than stay here and be tortured to utter exhaustion by this wretched man. Suddenly, the click of the front door lock echoed from outside. Shun Yosoa, who was still lost in her deep train of thought, couldn't help but shudder violently once more. She instinctively covered Wanwan's tiny ears, silently straining to catch any sound from outside. You pushed open the door and stepped inside, instinctively glancing toward the living room sofa. A subtle, tender smile couldn't help but spread across your face. The mother and daughter must have returned to their bedroom to sleep, but they probably still hadn't eaten a single bite. Looking down at the warm takeaway meals in your hands, you stood there dazed for a moment. He stared dumbfounded at the boxed meal resting in his hands. After pondering for a moment, you arranged the food neatly on the table and walked toward the bedroom. Shun Yosuo remained completely tense from head to toe. She could hear the soft, rhythmic sound of your footsteps drawing closer and closer to the bedroom door. Deep down in her heart, she silently prayed that you wouldn't step inside, but in the very next second, you spoke up. I bought some warm food for you two. If you're hungry, come out and eat, all right? Tonight, I'll just crash on the living room sofa. Hearing those words, Shun Yosua's eyes snapped wide open. She then heard the soft echo of your footsteps slowly fading away into the distance. The bedroom abruptly plunged into complete silence, with only the sound of Shun Yosua's anxious, rapid breathing reverberating through the quiet bedroom space. One had opened her bright eyes at some point, having clearly recognized your voice. Curiously, she kept her eyes glued to the tightly shut bedroom door. Did that terrifying father of hers really not barge into the bedroom tonight? What's more, it sounded like he said he bought some delicious food for them. The mere thought of food made her little stomach growl again. She swallowed hard, staring up at her mother with pure anticipation. Shun Yosuo lowered her head and met her daughter's hopeful, eager gaze. Summoning every last drop of her courage, she tiptoed toward the bedroom door and gently creaked it open. The mouth-watering aroma of fresh, warm food instantly wafted through the air. Shun Yosua's eyes blurred with sudden emotion. He actually bought food for the two of them. Faced with this sudden, out-of-character kindness from you, Shun Yosua didn't feel a single trace of joy. Instead, an overwhelming wave of dread washed over her from the bottom of her heart. Why on earth was he acting like this? What more could he possibly want to take from her? Barefoot, Wanwan scampered over on tiny pitter-patter steps, peeking out from behind the narrow door crack. Her adorable eyes instantly lit up with excitement, and drool uncontrollably began to pool in her mouth. Yet, she didn't dare make a move on her own, instead looking up, with her small, innocent face and big round eyes, blinking expectantly at her mother. Shun Yosoa took a deep, shaky breath, forced a gentle, reassuring smile, and scooped Wanwan into her arms. Wanwan, be a good girl. Let's keep our voices down, okay? Hurry up and eat. Wanwan eagerly nodded her tiny head again and again. Inside the room, you could obviously hear the faint noises coming from outside, and you let out a long, heavy sigh. After sighing, you began carefully planning out your future strategy. Just a short while ago, right after picking up the takeaway food, you made the shocking discovery that this entire household had less than 1.8 million VNE left in savings. You desperately needed to figure out a way to make money fast. A moment later, you suddenly sat bolt upright in bed. A brilliant thought flashed in your mind. How on earth could I be so dense? Isn't this literally a parallel world? Your mood instantly surged with electric excitement as you snatched up your phone, endlessly searching for local information. A moment later, a triumphant, brilliant smile broke out across your face. This world was indeed just as your memory suggested. Its cultural legacy and entertainment industry were completely different from the world you came from. A handful of mediocre, tacky commercial songs that made you cringe could actually dominate the top music charts here. Clutching your phone tightly in your palm, your mind raced at top speed. One legendary masterpiece after another from your past life gradually surfaced in vivid detail within your mind. After racking your brain for so long, you finally couldn't hold out any longer, and dragging your exhausted body, you slowly drifted off into a deep sleep. Early the next morning, at precisely 6 a.m., you gently turned the doorknob and stepped out of the room. The dining table and kitchen had already been wiped completely spotless. Shin Yosua must have cleaned up thoroughly after finishing her meal last night. Standing frozen in place, you pondered for a brief moment, then silently headed into the bathroom to wash up. You knew that Shin Yosua usually didn't wake up to cook until 8 a.m., all because the original owner of this body would routinely sleep in past 10 a.m. every single day, only after he woke up and finished chugging his alcohol. Were the mother and daughter allowed to eat his leftover scraps? Once again, you couldn't help but let out a bitter, regretful sigh. Hurrying to finish your morning routine. Inside the bedroom, Shin Yosua had actually been wide awake for a long time, yet she didn't dare take a single step outside. The sounds of washing up outside finally ceased, followed by the click of the front door opening and closing. Shin Yosua pressed her lips together tightly, her anxious gaze glued to the bedroom door, wondering in suspense what you were sneaking out to do again. After waiting for a long while, with absolute silence outside, Shin Yosua glanced at Wan, who was still sound asleep beside her. After a quick thought, she summoned her courage, quietly slipped out of bed, creaked the bedroom door open, and stepped out into the living room. The stench of alcohol in the living room had faded significantly, replaced by a crisp breeze flowing through the open window. How refreshing. This serene feeling made Shin Yosua feel as though she were living in a surreal dream. It had been so ridiculously long, so very long since she had last caught a breath of such pure, untainted air. Shin Yosua walked over to the open window and gazed out at the world outside, unconsciously falling into a dazed, dreamy trance. Only at this exact moment did it suddenly strike her that she was still only 24 years old. Who knows how much time slipped by before? The click of the front door echoed once again. Shin Yosua snapped back to reality with a sharp jolt, her entire body instinctively going rigid, as she turned around like a mechanical doll. You also froze awkwardly right in your tracks, never expecting Shin Yosua to be awake so early. When you finished washing up, you realized there was zero food left in the house. So you just popped out to buy some fresh meat, vegetables, and rice. Both of you stood there, staring blankly at each other. Only now could you clearly take in the appearance of the wife standing right before you. She was breathtakingly gorgeous, far more stunning than all those heavily filtered internet stars from her previous world. It was just that she was painfully thin, her face unnaturally pale, a direct result of severe, long-term malnutrition. Seeing this heartbreaking sight filled your chest with grief, rage, and burning shame. The original husband was an absolute monster. To mistreat such a gorgeous, devoted wife so horribly, he was truly, utterly unforgivable. Morning. I'm gonna whip us up some breakfast. You were the very first one to shatter the awkward, suffocating silence hanging in the air, carrying the grocery bags directly into the kitchen. Shin Yosua could hardly believe her own eyes and ears. Did he seriously just greet her politely? Besides, since when did he ever know how to cook? Shin Yosua silently tracked your busy figure moving around in the kitchen, an overwhelming wave of agonizing grievance welling up deep inside her. She bit down hard on her trembling lip, her eyes gradually welling up with hot, unshed tears. What on earth is the meaning of this? Is he pitying me, or did his long-lost conscience suddenly kick in? Mommy. Wan had officially woken up from her nap. Not finding her mother by her side, the little girl scampered out, barefoot, right into the living room. The moment she stepped outside, her cute little nose caught the irresistible, mouth-watering aroma of fresh food. She turned her head toward the kitchen, her big, round eyes brimming with curiosity. You, working inside the kitchen, naturally spotted the adorable little kid, and immediately flashed a warm, radiant smile at her. Unexpectedly, Wan recoiled in sheer terror, hiding right behind Shin Yosua. Helplessly rubbing your nose, it didn't take long before a delicious meal was completely ready. Looking over at the two of them, still cowering timidly in the distance, you said, "Go wash your faces, you two. Then come over and eat." Wan was visibly gulping down her saliva in pure craving, yet she didn't dare make a single move. Shin Yosua was also staring at the breathtaking scene before her eyes, her entire face filled with sheer shock and absolute dread. You had originally felt a tiny flicker of eager anticipation, but witnessing their guarded, terrified expressions, that hopeful spark in your heart instantly sank straight to the bottom of the ocean. You remained silent for a moment, letting out yet another heavy sigh before saying, "You two go ahead and eat first." With those words, you stepped straight into the spare bedroom. Shun. Yosuo remained frozen on the spot, watching the spare bedroom door shut tight, then lowered her eyes to meet her daughter's desperate, longing gaze. Sighing deeply in her heart, she whispered, "Wan, let's go eat." Arranged on the dining table was a bowl of freshly cooked, golden millet porridge, looking utterly mouth-watering. Accompanying it were 2 vegetable dishes and a small bowl of silky steamed eggs. The very instant her eyes landed on that bowl of steamed eggs, little Wanwan's eyes lit up with brilliant sparkles. "Mommy, did Daddy really cook this all for Wanwan?" Shin Yosuo was completely choked up, unable to speak. Gazing down at her daughter's wide-eyed, hopeful expression, she finally gave a small, gentle nod. Wanwan's eyes instantly shone even brighter than before. The little girl couldn't wait another second, scooping up a big spoonful of steamed egg and popping it straight into her mouth. "This is the very first time Daddy has ever cooked for me. It's so yummy." Shin Yosuo ate her meal in total silence, her mind locked in a turbulent, confused battle. Her eyes instinctively drifted toward the spare bedroom, staring fixedly at that tightly shut door. Inside, you were sitting at the desk, in the spare bedroom. Truth be told, you were so starving. Your stomach was sticking to your spine, but you knew that right now, the mother and daughter out there were still far from ready to sit at the same table and eat a meal with you. Shaking your head, you pushed those depressing thoughts straight out of your mind. You pulled out your smartphone, opened up this world's mainstream content platform app, and deleted the old, trashy account that only had a pathetic couple thousand followers left on it. You then registered a brand new account, completely from scratch. Out of sheer habit, you tapped open the trending search leaderboard on the app. Skimming through the top rankings, your eyebrows knitted together in sheer disgust. What on earth is this soul-draining garbage music? Since when could this kind of cheap fast food, auto-tuned trash dominate the trending charts? A bold, decisive plan began to form deep within your mind. Rummaging through the desk drawer, you pulled out several sheets of sheet music paper that had been gathering dust for a long time, all of which were left behind by Shun Yosuo from her previous career. You smoothed out the dusty manuscript paper on the desk surface. The pen in your hand glided at lightning speed across the page as you began, jotting down lines of musical notes and melodies with effortless precision. In your past life, you were an absolute musical genius, a legendary songwriter. Recreating these masterpieces in a brand new space was nothing more than child's play for a prodigy like you. In just a brief, fleeting moment, a complete, flawless musical masterpiece materialized right before your eyes. Unable to hold back your excitement any longer, you dug through the closet and pulled out a battered, forgotten acoustic guitar. Cradling the instrument, you sat up straight before the desk, channeling every ounce of raw emotion for a few quiet seconds. In the very next instant, you closed your eyes tightly, your fingers gently dancing across the guitar strings. A rich, beautiful melody resonated, reverberating softly throughout the entire room. Shun Yosuo, who was eating quietly in the dining room, suddenly froze in shock. He actually knows how to play the guitar. How could that even be possible? That guitar originally belonged to her. Shin Yosuo knew for a fact that he didn't know a single thing about playing instruments. At least, he had never known how to before today. So what on earth was going on right now? Blending seamlessly with the rhythmic strumming, your deep, soulful voice slowly echoed outward. Dreaming that you had left my side, I awoke with a sudden jolt. Shin Yosuo was struck completely speechless with disbelief, her wide eyes brimming with utter astonishment. Even little Wanwan, who had been happily devouring her meal, was instantly spellbound by the hypnotic singing voice. She stopped, her spoon midair, staring intently toward the tightly closed bedroom door, her large, round eyes blinking in continuous wonder. Wanwan tilted her tiny head, gazing toward the bedroom door. She felt in her heart that this was the very first time the person who cooked for her had ever sounded so warm and gentle. In truth, Shun Yosuo had never heard this song anywhere in her life. Yet she could feel its overwhelming emotional depth. The melody was so hauntingly beautiful and deeply melancholic. It was truly hard for her to fathom that such a song could be coming straight from your mouth. As her next line echoed softly through the quiet room, Shun Yosua felt her remaining composure shatter into pieces. She was once again plunged into total confusion. The agonizing fear of what lay ahead combined with terrifying uncertainty regarding your sudden, unpredictable change in behavior. 361, she genuinely dreaded that this was nothing more than a fleeting dream. She panicked, terrified that this was all just a fleeting dream. Your singing gently faded out at that exact moment. Wanwan quickly realized that her mother was silently weeping. Panicked, the little girl scrambled into Shun Yosua's arms, reaching out her tiny hands to wipe away the tears streaming down her mother's face. "Mommy, please stop crying. Let Wanwan blow on it to make it better, okay?" The innocent child assumed her mother was in pain somewhere. As she wiped away Shun Yosua's tears, she tilted her small face upward and gently pulled open her mother's collar, softly blowing on her skin. Yet beneath that fabric, stretching across Shun Yosua's back, was a horrific crisscross of faded scars and fresh wounds. Naturally, you were completely oblivious to the heartbreak the mother and daughter were enduring because of your song. At that moment, you logged into your Fresh account and tapped the video recording button. In the camera frame, you intentionally kept your face hidden, only framing yourself from the nose down. Cradling the guitar, you quickly warmed up your vocal cords. This time, your expression grew considerably more focused and sincere. You strummed the chords and delivered a flawless, full-length performance of the track. The moment the final note faded, you saved the recording, carefully trimming away the silence and background noise at both ends. Finally, you extracted the high-quality audio and synced the on-screen lyrics. You instantly filed for copyright protection online. Once every single detail was finalized, you carefully drafted a catchy title, My Whole Life With You, an original song I wrote, dedicated to everyone out there. I truly hope this music touches your heart. Thank you all so much for your love and support. The upload bar filled completely, video published. You let out a soft, long sigh of utter relief, thinking to yourself, finally, step one is complete. Now, all that was left was to sit back and watch the audience reactions roll in. This song was guaranteed to become an absolute viral sensation. You carefully stowed the acoustic guitar back inside the closet, rubbing your growling, ravenous stomach. Who knew if the mother and daughter had finished their breakfast yet? Gosh, I'm starving to death. What a rough life. Still clutching your empty belly, you finally couldn't wait another second. You gently pushed open the bedroom door, leaving a tiny, narrow crack. Peeking outside like a stealthy thief sneaking a glance, you happened to witness Shun Yosua carrying Wanwan away from the dining table. Her eyes were bloodshot and swollen red, looking as though she had just cried her heart out in a massive weeping session. She clearly caught sight of you as well. After freezing dead in her tracks for a brief second, she scooped up the child and hastily retreated into the master bedroom. You let out a huge sigh of relief, pushing the door wide open and stepping out toward the dining table. Finally, you could eat a proper meal, looking at the spread where a generous portion had obviously been saved just for you. A surge of extraordinary, unexplainable joy welled up in your heart. You picked up the steaming bowl of porridge and began devouring every single bite with pure relish. After clearing off every scrap of food from the table and washing up all the dishes, you leisurely took a stroll around the house, carefully inspecting the entire layout of this little home. This was a cozy, two-bedroom, one-living-room apartment, spanning a modest area of barely 50 square meters, jointly purchased as their shared marital home when they first wed. All the furniture inside was bought back then, and everything now looked quite worn, outdated, and aged. Shaking your head with a quiet sigh, you walked back and sank into the living room sofa. It was truly heartbreaking to imagine how Shun Yosua had managed to raise a toddler all by herself, while enduring such a suffocating, hostile atmosphere. Over the past 2 years, she had barely stepped foot outside the house. Living like this felt no different from serving a prison sentence. You understood crystal clear that you couldn't completely overturn and fix everything overnight. All you could do for now was lounge on the couch, mindlessly scrolling through your phone, searching for practical ways to nurture a loving, happy family. How to coax a toddler into smiling, and how to become an exceptional father. In the end, the internet advice was an absolute mixed bag of utter nonsense, giving you a massive, pounding headache from reading it all. Right at that moment, the door to the master bedroom suddenly creaked open. Your gaze instantly darted toward the soft noise, catching a tiny head poking out to scout the area. It was Wan Wan. She tilted her little head, observing you intently with almond-shaped eyes identical to her mother's, staring at you with wide-eyed curiosity. In those sparkling, glistening eyes of hers, there lay an aura of pure innocence and absolute unblemished sweetness that instantly melted your heart into a puddle. It was just that little Wan Wan's cheeks were painfully thin and frail, looking every bit as malnourished as her mother. If she could just gain a bit of healthy weight, she would beyond a doubt be the most precious, adorable child ever. And honestly, it made total sense. The poor mother and daughter had only lived on scraps, and those cheap, greasy leftovers weren't even edible for a growing toddler. On top of that, your previous self never gave them a single penny, leaving them trapped in a constant struggle, hovering on the brink of starvation. Looking at little Wan Wan, you instinctively tried to offer her a warm, loving smile. However, before that gentle smile could fully blossom, across your face, Wan Wan slammed the bedroom door shut in sheer panic and bolted back into the safety of her room. From inside the room, Shen Yosua's soft, comforting voice echoed out. Your smile instantly froze solid, right on your face, leaving you awkwardly rubbing your nose in total embarrassment. Time slipped away in agonizing, quiet ticks. Right up until the clock struck noon, you finally put down your phone and stood up to prepare lunch. Right at that precise moment, the master bedroom door slowly creaked open once again. Shun Yosua emerged with an emotionless expression, clutching a giant pile of laundry. As she stepped out of the bedroom, treating you as if you were completely invisible, she walked straight toward the bathroom. You caught every detail. The moment she stepped out, her body visibly stiffened with unbearable tension. Was she heading over to wash the laundry? Suddenly, a realization struck you. The dirty clothes you took off yesterday were still sitting inside the washing machine, forgotten. Realizing this, you hastily strode over toward the bathroom as well. Shun Yosua was currently consumed by an overwhelming sense of dread. She never expected you to still be lounging at home at this hour. Normally, at this exact time of day, you would have long vanished out the front door to party and get dead drunk with your deadbeat friends, not staggering back until the dead of night. She heard the soft thud of your footsteps, 488 drawing closer and closer to her position, step by step. His footsteps were slowly creeping closer and closer toward her with every passing second. Her heart clenched even tighter, in pure terror, her delicate frame trembling uncontrollably. My clothes are still sitting inside the washing machine. Would it be all right if I pull them out to hang up first? Shun Yosaw, who was leaning over to open the washing machine door, was so startled by your sudden, polite words that she gasped in fright, her body swaying. As she nearly lost her footing and tumbled backward, she instinctively scrambled back into the corner of the bathroom to dodge away from you. Whoa, careful! You couldn't help but blurt out in concern. Only then did Shin Yosua manage to snap back to her senses. Was he actually asking for her permission? Her eyes dodged away, not daring to look at you directly. You go ahead and take yours out first. Thank you. You clench your hands into tight fists, your own hands beginning to tremble, ever so slightly, unable to conceal the overwhelming guilt and heartache in your eyes. Just a moment ago, you had clearly spotted beneath the collar of Shun Yosua's shirt the lingering, painful purplish-red bruises. You gathered your laundry from the washing machine, refraining from staring in her direction any longer, and simply said in a gentle tone, "I'll be cooking lunch in a bit. Remember to bring little Wan Wan out to eat with us, okay? She's sleeping right now. You can just go in and wake her up later." Shin Yosua retreated even deeper into the corner, her entire body radiating utter, uncontrollable panic. You knew your mere presence was causing her immense pressure, so with a heavy sigh, you rubbed your nose, grabbed the pile of clothes from the washer, and quickly headed out to the balcony to hang them up. Afterward, you quietly stepped straight into the kitchen. Inside the bathroom, Shun Yosoo remained frozen in place, clutching the laundry until the savory steam began rising from the kitchen, snapping her back to reality. With trembling hands, she loaded the clothes into the washing machine, her eyes instinctively darting toward the kitchen across the hall. Deep down, she couldn't help but wonder what on earth had gotten into you. She unconsciously raised a hand to gently rub the bridge of her own nose, only to suddenly freeze dead in her tracks. Since when did he pick up that nervous habit? Shun Yosoo stood motionless before the washing machine, listening to the steady, rhythmic whirring of the spin cycle. Her emotions tangled in a deeply complex, chaotic knot. Not until the laundry cycle finally finished did she carry the damp clothes out to the balcony to hang them up, while that man was still bustling away tirelessly inside the tiny kitchen. Wawan didn't even need her mother to go in and wake her up. The little girl had woken up on her own long ago. Her two tiny hands were continuously rubbing her sleepy, wide eyes. The moment she caught sight of Yuhara at work in the kitchen, her beautiful eyes instantly sparkled with pure excitement. Peeking out curiously, she clung to the kitchen doorway, silently observing. "You're busy back." Shun Yosoo, having finished hanging up the clothes, turned around only to be greeted by this heartwarming sight. Tiny little Wan gazing with wide-eyed anticipation at you as you happily cooked away. In an instant, Shun Yosoo's emotional walls completely collapsed. She spun around in a panic, slumping her back against the wall, her hands clutching her face tightly as she slowly sank onto the floor, tears streaming down her face silently. This was a scene she hadn't witnessed in forever. A heartwarming moment she only ever dared to see in her wildest dreams. This time, he still didn't join them for lunch. After setting all the freshly cooked dishes on the table, he immediately turned around and rushed right out the front door. Hearing the heavy click of the door closing, Shun Yosoo wiped away her teardrops with fierce determination. She stood up, picked up little Wan, and carried her over to the table. Nobody knew how utterly conflicted and chaotic her feelings were right now. Not even she herself could make sense of what was running through her head anymore. The meal tasted just as mouth-watering as breakfast had. The little girl happily devoured her soft steamed egg, yet the mother and daughter's peaceful lunch was abruptly shattered by the sound of the front door swinging open. They both instinctively looked up at the same time, watching as he carried a massive shopping bag, pushing the door open and stepping briskly into the house. Wan cowered in sheer terror, clinging tight against her mother, the tiny spoon full of egg still held in her mouth. Her large, round eyes tracked his every single move. He kept his head lowered slightly, not daring to look directly at the terrified mother and daughter. He simply walked silently over to the sofa, setting down the shopping bag he was holding before speaking up gently. "I bought you some ointment. Make sure to apply it on your wounds, okay? Also, I bought a toy for our daughter. I wasn't sure if she'd like it, but I saw other little girls playing with one, so she deserves to have one too." Shun Yosoo didn't give him a single response. He fell silent for a few brief seconds before continuing softly. "I know you won't believe me right away, but there are things I absolutely must say out loud. From this day on, I won't drink a single drop of alcohol again. I will never, ever hurt the two of you ever again. From now on, Wan doesn't need to live in fear at home anymore. She is far too young to endure all this trauma. Living in this tense, hostile environment is terrible for her growth." He poured out every single word from the depths of his heart in one breath, feeling a massive weight lifted off his chest. He didn't even wait for Shun Yosoo to answer him. Silently turning around and heading back into his own room, Shun Yosoo stared fixedly at his fading figure until he disappeared. Looking at his tightly shut bedroom door, she found herself even more completely at a loss for words. In the span of just one single day, confronted with his completely drastic, sudden transformation, she still found it nearly impossible to open her heart to him. Meanwhile, inside the bedroom, your own emotional state was faring no better at all. The rims of your eyes burned red and raw. You had clearly wept countless bitter tears when you were alone earlier. If you had any say in the matter, you wished with all your heart that you had never transmigrated here, wishing You didn't have to witness any of these heartbreaking events unfold, especially whenever you looked at Shun Yosoa and saw her entire body covered in countless brutal scars and bruises. Your heart clenched so violently it felt on the verge of collapsing. You truly couldn't fathom how anyone in this world could ever be so utterly sadistic and cruel toward their own family. After finishing their meal, they still left behind a small portion of food for you. Yet when you stepped out of your room and spotted the gifts you bought for them last night sitting on the table completely untouched and unopened, you pursed your lips and let out a heavy sigh, having no choice but to quietly sit down and eat your food. However, right at that very moment, the door to the master bedroom abruptly creaked open. Little Wanwan poked, her tiny head out, staring at you with wide, curious eyes. 629, you instantly flashed the warmest, most affectionate smile at the child. Staring at him, he quickly flashed a bright, warm smile at his little girl. This time, the little girl finally wasn't terrified into running away. A massive weight was instantly lifted off your chest. Your heavy, aching heart was deeply comforted by this delicate, fragile little soul. Setting down your chopsticks, you summoned every last drop of tenderness in your body and softly called out, Wanwan. Your soft voice startled the little girl slightly, but she didn't shrink back. Instead, she turned her head to glance inside the bedroom for a brief moment. Immediately after, as if receiving a nod of encouragement, she turned her gaze right back toward you. A soft, innocent baby voice sweetly echoed from her tiny little lips. Hearing that precious sound, your entire body trembled violently as tears instantly blurred your vision. This was undeniably the most breathtakingly beautiful sound you had ever heard since arriving in this foreign world. Wanwan tilted her tiny head, gazing in utter confusion at you as you laughed and cried simultaneously. You nodded your head vigorously, then pushed yourself up and pulled the adorable doll out of the shopping bag. You held the doll, gently swaying it back and forth right in front of her. Inside her large, round eyes, there seemed to be a faint flicker of hesitation. She gazed intently at the doll, then turned her head to look back into the bedroom, taking a long moment before slowly taking small steps toward you. Your heart pounded wildly against your chest like a frantic war drum, consumed by the single fear that you might accidentally frighten this fragile little angel who had summoned so much courage just to approach you. The little girl walked right up beside you, looking up with her tiny face and taking a deep, earnest sniff. The very next second, a brilliant, radiant smile blossomed across her face. Daddy doesn't smell stinky anymore, and this doll looks so pretty. Her tiny hand twitched ever so slightly, reaching out to take it, yet she didn't quite dare to grab it, simply locking her deep black eyes onto yours. You instantly understood what was going through her innocent mind, so you slowly crouched down to meet her gaze at eye level, gently placing the toy directly into her little hands. Wanwan finally accepted the precious gift, her tiny fingers softly brushing against the doll's dainty dress. Her bright eyes instantly curled into adorable crescent moons. Watching her burst with pure, unadulterated joy, an overwhelming wave of bittersweet emotion surged inside your heart, especially when you got an up-close look at her gaunt, frail little face and the faded clothes she was wearing, which were washed out from endless use, severely shrunk, and far too small to fit her tiny body properly. A sharp, agonizing pain pierced your heart like 1,000 needle pricks. She was only 3 years old, clenching your teeth tightly. You hurriedly wiped away your stray tears and forced out a gentle smile, silently admiring her as she played blissfully. In this single, quiet moment, nothing else in the entire world mattered to you except her. Meanwhile, inside the quiet master bedroom, Shun Yosoa listened to her daughter's silver bell-like laughter ringing out from the living room, her face completely drenched in a fresh torrent of tears. Not long after, Wanwan hugged the doll tightly against her chest, glancing back at you as you sat there smiling like a goofy fool, before spinning around and trotting back into the bedroom. What you had absolutely no idea about was that in the span of a single overnight sensation, your song My Whole Life with You had utterly swept through and dominated every music leaderboard in the country. By 10 p.m. that very night, your video performance had skyrocketed straight up to the number 5 spot on the trending search list. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the platform operations team, urgent knocks echoed outside the office door of Director Licia. A technician, clutching a tablet, burst into the room, soaked in sweat. Director Lee, we have an extraordinary situation. A video took only 2 hours to climb straight into the top 5 trending list. What's the panic about? Is it some celebrity caught in a scandal again? No, it's not a celebrity at all. It's a brand new account created just today. What's more, the video didn't receive any promotional backing whatsoever. The content is just a single song. The instant she heard those words, Licia's expression shifted drastically as she immediately opened the trending leaderboard. 7:14 to check for herself, the shock in her eyes deepening by the second. It has already surged up to the number 4 spot. Scrolled up to look, the sheer astonishment in her eyes growing even deeper. Let me see what kind of song is so unbelievably powerful. The moment the track faded out, Licia was left in total, stunned silence. For the first time in her life, she had listened to a track so mind-blowing, she instantly clicked on his profile, noticing his username was set as Bufan. Right after, she barked a direct order to Lu Yun. Boost the engagement on this video immediately. Guarantee it hits the number 1 trending spot by tomorrow morning. Lu Yun nodded vigorously, knowing he had placed his bet on a right horse. As soon as he left the room, Xia played his song once more. Her fingers tapped rhythmically on the desk until, after a short pause, she picked up her phone and sent him a private direct message. Yet, you were completely oblivious to any of this. At 5 in the morning, you were already awake. After freshening up, you headed outside for a morning run. This body was in far worse shape than you had imagined. Jogging for just a short bit left you utterly breathless. Alternating between running and resting, it took a full agonizing hour to finish 5 kilometers. By the time you returned home, it was already 7:30 a.m. The moment you pushed the door open, you ran right into Shan Yosal, who had just finished washing her face, the soft strands of hair framing her forehead, still glistening with tiny water droplets. Catching sight of you, she gasped in startled shock. You froze for a brief second, awkwardly clearing your throat to ask, "Is our little girl still sleeping? Why don't you go check on?" Wan, I'll shower first, then head into the kitchen to cook breakfast. Is there anything specific you'd like to eat? And no, nothing in particular. Just make whatever you like. I'll go check on our daughter. Saying that, she hurriedly slipped into the bedroom as if desperately trying to escape. You stared at the tightly closed door. He stared intently at the tightly shut bedroom door and helplessly shrugged your shoulders. After finishing your shower, you were hit with a ravenous hunger, and the previous owner's brutal alcohol cravings began gnawing at you once again. With no other choice, you tried cooking breakfast, while chugging tons of hot water to soothe the intense withdrawals. Right at that moment, Wan woke up. Clutching the doll, you gifted her tightly in her arms, as she leaned against the kitchen doorway, staring at you intently. Turning around and catching sight of this little angel, you immediately flashed a gentle, loving smile and asked Wan, "What do you want to eat for breakfast today?" "Daddy will cook it for you." Wan tilted her little head in deep thought before softly replying, "Steamed egg." Wan loves eating steamed egg. All right then, steamed egg it is. You reached out your hand, intending to pat her little head, but fearing you might startle and frighten her, you quietly pulled your hand back. No need to rush. Taking it slow was key, and Wan was already starting to warm up to you. This very realization filled your entire heart with radiant hope, lifting your spirits to an all-time high. In an instant, even the agonizing alcohol cravings and gnawing hunger completely vanished in a thin air. After serving breakfast on the table, you habituated yourself to retreating right back into your small bedroom, so the mother and daughter could enjoy their meal in peace. However, this time, the living room outside was clearly filled with heartwarming laughter. Lying on the bed, you picked up your phone, which you had set to silent mode. Earlier, eager to check the performance of your video. But who could have guessed? The moment you unlocked the screen, you were hit with absolute, jaw-dropping shock. Holy crap, how on earth are there so many notifications? Gulping down your saliva in anticipation, you opened your profile, and the very next second, the unbelievable sight of over 1 million followers. nearly made you faint from dizzying disbelief. Hands trembling with excitement, you clicked to view the video analytics. Over 2 million likes and nearly 1 million comments. A massive, uncontrollable grin spread wide across your face. This was literally becoming an overnight internet sensation. On top of that, the comment section was filled with pure, overwhelming praise, with everyone desperately begging you to drop a new song. Next up came the moment of truth. Reaping your rewards. Opening the revenue dashboard, the raw figure flashing before your eyes drove you completely wild with insane euphoria. A whopping 320,000 yuan. And that was without a single cent spent on paid promotions. Raking in 320,000 yuan in a single day purely off views alone. You finally breathe a massive sigh of relief. With this kind of cash, they wouldn't have to live in dirt-poor misery and pinch pennies anymore. Keep in mind that before this, your entire combined net worth, 806, was barely a meager 1,000 yuan. Over 1,000 renminbi in cash. Even buying cheap groceries meant calculating every single dime. You instantly initiated a withdrawal of the funds right into your bank account, waiting until the mother and daughter finished eating outside. You finally pushed open the door and stepped out, polishing off every last bite of food left on the table. After washing and putting away the dishes, you grabbed your phone and rushed out the door. This decrepit, rundown apartment building you were living in was bought simply because your previous self was a cheapskate. They had once dreamed of upgrading to a much nicer home. But sadly, that deadbeat piece of garbage didn't just blow through all their savings. He even went so far as to sell off Shen Yosua's smartphone just to buy more booze. Stepping out of the apartment complex, you walked straight toward the shopping mall in your memory. The second you crossed through the entrance, you caught sight of a major domestic brand phone store. A young female sales associate spotted you, her eyes instantly lighting up as she warmly greeted you. Welcome. Are you looking to buy a new smartphone today? You nodded, scanning through the sleek models displayed in the glass showcase. Could you only take a closer look at this one? You have incredible taste. This is our absolute latest flagship model. It even features cutting-edge satellite communication capabilities. Do you sell SIM cards here as well? Yes, of course we do. Is this purchase for yourself, sir? You shook your head and replied, no, I'm buying it for my wife. The female worker froze for a brief second, unable to hide a flicker of deep disappointment in her eyes, no doubt, thinking to herself that all the top-tier, ideal men out there were already taken. Yet, her lips didn't miss a beat in offering a glowing compliment. Your wife is truly so lucky. However, registering a SIM card requires the owner to present their ID in person. Fair enough. You hadn't realized buying a simple SIM card required the actual owner. In that case, please wrap up this phone for me. After paying the bill, you hurriedly departed. There were still tons of essential items left on your shopping list. You couldn't afford to waste another second. At that exact moment, right after you stepped out of the apartment, Shun Yosua had cleaned the entire house thoroughly from top to bottom. She sat comfortably on the couch, gazing quietly out the window. There wasn't even a lingering trace of that foul alcohol smell left indoors. The crisp, fresh air made her feel exceptionally peaceful and refreshed. Watching Wan play so blissfully all by herself, an involuntary, soft smile gently curled upon Shun Yosua's lips. Living days like this felt so incredibly wonderful. Yet the very next instant, the sound of the door lock suddenly twisting open instantly snapped her right out of her peaceful daydream. Wan scrambled up in sheer panic as well, clutching her doll tightly while diving right into Shun Yosua's protective arms. Unexpectedly, noisy clamoring echoed from right outside the front door, intertwined with his distinct, familiar voice. Easy there, gently. Be careful not to scuff the corners. Lift it up straight and carry it inside. She hastily scooped up Wan, intending to dart straight into the bedroom. Yet her eyes couldn't resist casting a curious glance toward the doorway. The next second, his silhouette alongside an unfamiliar man appeared right within her line of sight. The two of them were hauling a brand-new, cream-colored, cloud-shaped sofa straight into the living room. The moment he caught sight of Shun Yosua, his eyes instantly gleamed with radiant delight, his entire face beaming with pure excitement. Yosua, Could you please help me pour a few cups of warm water? We should let these hard-working movers take a breather and grab a drink. Having isolated herself from outside society for so long, Shun Yosua was a little flustered and awkward, completely at a loss for how to react. Oh, okay. I'll go pour some right away. The brilliant smile on your face grew even brighter, though drenched head to toe in sweat. You were still bursting with boundless energy and enthusiasm. Right after that, you teamed up with the movers to haul the new sofa inside the living room, before hauling the old, tattered sofa straight out to the curb. Next came a brand new TV, a sleek refrigerator, and vibrant potted green plants, with every single piece of fresh furniture being carried in. The rundown apartment was instantaneously and completely transformed, feeling completely reborn, as if he had shed his old skin. As for all those discarded old items that were tossed out, you ultimately liquidated the whole lot to a buyer for 800 yuan flat. Watching this unfold, Shun Yosua couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. Even though those old belongings were worn down, they were still completely functional, selling them all for a mere 800 yuan was such a massive loss. Yet, the single burning question she was most curious about right now was where on earth you managed to get your hands on so much money. According to her mental math, their family right now should have been almost completely out of food money. Seeing the workers off, you carried a massive shopping bag back into the living room, admirably admiring the fruit of your hard work and labor. Now, this is what a real home is supposed to feel like. Quickly wiping away stray beads of sweat, you set the bag onto the newly purchased coffee table and flopped right down onto the plush, comfortable sofa. The mother and daughter inside the kitchen were still standing there in a total daze. Wanwan clung tight to her mother's leg, acting like an intensely curious little kitten, as she sneaked peek after peek at every single corner of the room, catching sight of the little girl's utterly adorable look. Your gaze softened completely, a bright smile beaming across your face. All at once, an overwhelming sense of sheer contentment washed over you. Reaching deep inside the bag, you pulled out a massive, gorgeous pink toy set and placed it on the coffee table, never taking your eyes off little Wan Wan for a second. Unsurprisingly, the little girl's attention was instantly captured. You gestured with your hand, waving Wan Wan over, looking at her with an intensely adoring, affectionate gaze. Wan Wan, come over here and check out what Daddy got for you. Yet, Wan Wan didn't instantly dash on over. Instead, she raised her tiny face to look up at her mother, only when Shun Yosua's lips twitched subtly. Even though she didn't utter a word, did the little girl timidly take small, hesitant steps forward. You immediately unboxed the toy set right in front of her. It was a mini princess dollhouse. Oh no, the little princess's house is so messy. Wan Wan, do you want to help Daddy decorate and fix up this little princess's dream house? Wan Wan's wide, round eyes instantly lit up with dazzling sparkle. Her tiny little body edged closer and closer by another inch, stepping all the way up right beside your feet. You flashed a radiant, heartwarming smile, picking up the little princess doll inside the toy house, and spoke in an ultra-gentle, theatrical tone, pretending to sigh softly. Oh dear, the princess hasn't gotten dressed up yet. Daddy doesn't know how to put dresses on dolls at all. I guess I'll have to beg little Wan Wan to save the day and help Daddy out. As you spoke, you delicately offered the princess doll directly toward her. Wan Wan blinked her big, innocent eyes hesitantly, raising her dainty little hand, until she softly touched the princess doll held in your palm, keeping a soft, reassuring smile glued to your face the entire time. You gently placed the princess doll straight into her little hand, using your large, warm palm to softly wrap around her tiny little hand. The very moment her hand was wrapped in your warm, comforting embrace, the corners of your lips slightly curled upward in pure happiness. You picked up another long, flowing pink dress. I'll leave dressing up the princess completely to Wan Wan, okay? Can Wan Wan teach Daddy how to do it? Feeling the gentle warmth radiating from your palm, she looked at the little princess, then back at your playfully helpless expression, and suddenly, the little girl giggled. Daddy is so silly. Let Wan Wan teach you. The sweet child smiled, revealing her adorable white baby teeth, fully leaning her weight against your leg. as she clumsily slipped the tiny dress onto the princess doll. You couldn't help but laugh along with her. You humbly accepted your precious daughter's guidance, attentively learning how to dress up the little princess. In this incredibly heartwarming moment, the cramped apartment suddenly felt overwhelmingly warm and bright. Meanwhile, Shun Yosaw, who was leaning against the doorframe, silently observed this breathtakingly beautiful scene unfold before her. The rims of her eyes gradually grew wet with emotion. However, the father and daughter hadn't been playing for long. When you looked up and noticed Shun Yosaw staring in a daze, the light blue button-down shirt she was wearing was completely washed out and faded, a sight that looked utterly heartbreaking in this moment. You abruptly narrowed your eyes as a sudden rush of agonizing memories flashed through your mind. Wasn't this a piece of a matching family outfit set? On Wanwan's second birthday, Shinyo Suwa had secretly bought it entirely behind your back. As a brutal consequence of buying this very shirt, she was violently abused, and her phone was forcibly snatched away and pawned off. Recalling that horrific scene, you completely froze in pure shock. The very next second, you staggered and abruptly bolted upright, covering your mouth as you sprinted into the bathroom and vomited violently. Only in this moment did you truly realize that when a person with a shred of conscience looks back at those depraved actions from a third-party perspective, they would feel an overwhelming surge of absolute outrage and sheer physical disgust. This sudden, chaotic incident utterly terrified the mother and daughter waiting in the living room. Shin Yosuwa trembled violently, her body entirely consumed by fear as she instantly lunged toward the sofa, pulling Wanwan tightly into a fiercely protective embrace. Wanwan also desperately shrank deep into her mother's trembling arms, terrified that the father who had just finished throwing up would revert to his old, monstrous self, suddenly charging out to violently curse and brutally beat them all over again. After a long, agonizing while, you stumbled out of the bathroom looking utterly haggard, your eyes heavily bloodshot as you looked directly at Shun Yosaw and Wan, who were both trembling in utter terror. Your heart constricted even tighter, throbbing with intense agony as your stomach churned violently without pause. Yet you still desperately force yourself to endure the excruciating discomfort, weakly croaking out an apology. "I'm so sorry. I ended up scaring you too. I just suddenly felt a bit unwell, that's all." Just the mere thought of inhabiting the wretched body of such a horrific scumbag made you feel as if tens of thousands of flesh-eating ants were crawling across your entire skin, staring at their eyes, which were still overflowing with deep-seated vigilance. You let out a heavy, solemn sigh, then quietly walked into the kitchen. Wan, I bet you're not tired of playing with the toy yet, right? Why don't you play with Mommy for a little while longer, okay? Daddy will go prepare lunch for us. Shin Yosuwa gazed intently at his side profile, a sight that felt both intimately familiar yet completely foreign at the same time. Ultimately, she offered a soft, silent nod, holding Wan close as she sat back down on the plush sofa. Wan slyly poked her little head out to sneak a peek, and seeing that you were still the exact same gentle father from earlier, that radiant, innocent smile finally blossomed across her cute tiny face once again. By the time lunch was fully cooked, the mouth-watering aroma of home-cooked food wafted heavily throughout the entire living room. Yet Shun Yosuwa noticed that after you set all the piping hot dishes onto the dining table, you silently retreated right back into the second bedroom. The corners of her lips twitched slightly, yet she found herself unable to utter a single word. Mid-meal, Wan nibbled delicately on her small spoon, and suddenly furrowed her tiny eyebrows, asking innocently, "Mommy, why isn't Daddy eating lunch together with us?" Shin Yosuwa was slowly chewing on a piece of stir-fried pork. This was her absolute favorite dish. Because he couldn't handle spicy food, she hadn't gotten to taste this flavor in what felt like an eternity. Hearing her daughter's innocent question, her gaze instinctively drifted toward the direction of that closed room, before slowly turning back around. A sudden, brilliant smile spread across her face. A smile as dazzling and pure as spring flowers bursting into full bloom. That's simply because Mommy and Daddy haven't mentally prepared themselves just yet, my love. The little child couldn't quite grasp the deep meaning behind those words, her tiny eyebrows scrunching up even tighter in complete confusion. Meanwhile, sitting alone inside the bedroom, you were staring blankly into space, constantly trying to comfort yourself into believing that none of this was your fault. Yet, that still couldn't erase the cold, hard reality. To the rest of the world, you were that exact same monster, drowning in sheer helplessness. All you could do was pull out your phone to check your video, desperately trying to distract your spiraling mind. Your song was still sitting comfortably right at the top of the hot search rankings. Down in the comment section, countless fans were begging you to drop a new track. Right at that moment, the clinking sound of dishes being washed echoed from outside. Setting your phone down, you slowly stepped out of the bedroom. On the dining table sat a warm portion of food left behind specifically for you. Shin Yosua was busy washing dishes inside the kitchen, while Wanwan was happily playing with her new toy set on the couch. Catching sight of you stepping out, Wanwan didn't recoil in fear like she used to. Flashing a warm smile, you walked over and gently patted her soft little head, before turning your gaze toward the kitchen. The moment Shun Yosua stepped out of the kitchen, she caught you staring directly at her, making her instantly tense up with nervous anxiety. Her hands awkwardly tugged and twisted the hem of her faded shirt, taking in her timid, overly submissive demeanor. You couldn't help but furrow your brow, letting out a soft, silent sigh in your heart. It was precisely this gentle, deeply introverted personality of hers that had allowed that scumbag to ruthlessly bully and walk all over her without the slightest restraint. Thinking up to this point, your furrowed brow gradually relaxed. Reaching over to the coffee table, you picked up the newly purchased smartphone, placing it down on the table right in front of her. In an ultra-gentle tone, you softly spoke to Shin Yosua. I bought a new phone for you. Take a look and see if you like it. Also, there are a few important matters I'd like to discuss with you. Could you come over and sit down for a moment? Shin Yosua, who had been keeping her head hung low, abruptly snapped her head up the instant she heard your words. The very first thing her eyes locked onto was your crystal clear, pure, and genuinely soft gaze. Next, her eyes landed on the pristine, brand-new phone box resting on the table. Shin Yosua froze in utter disbelief for a brief moment before softly whispering a quiet reply. Slowly walking over to the couch, she sat down gingerly. What kind of matters do you need to discuss? Her voice was barely above a whisper, forcing you to strain your ears just to catch every word. Yet, you didn't answer her right away, but instead reached over, picked up the box, and opened it with his own hands, pulling out a brand-new sky blue smartphone. After setting up a few basic configurations, he held out directly toward Shin Yosua. This is for you. As for the SIM card, you'll need to drop by the store yourself to set it up. I've already saved my phone number in there for you. From now on, whenever I'm not home, if anything comes up, just give me a call. As he spoke, he pulled a thick stack of cash from his pocket and placed it right in front of her. This is some cash I just withdrew. If you have time this afternoon, take our daughter out for a walk. Staying cooped up inside the house all day isn't good for either of you. Buy whatever you guys need, especially some new clothes. Look at what the two of you are wearing. Everything has grown way too tight. Also, make sure to set up a proper bank account, because carrying around raw cash isn't safe at all. He kept nagging on and on, rambling through every single thought and plan in his mind in one single breath. Yet Shun Yosua simply raised her head, staring intently at him the entire time. Listening to his endless list of caring instructions, the rims of her eyes slowly flushed red. Seeing her hesitate to take the phone, he had no choice but to helplessly rub his nose, asking, Do you? Not like this model? I thought this color looked really pretty, and it's the absolute latest model on the market right now. If you don't like it, we can go swap it for another one you prefer. To his surprise, Shun Yosua gazed deeply into his eyes once more. No, I really love it. Thank you. Her voice remained exceptionally soft, laced with a subtle, choked, trembling sound. At that exact moment, their eyes locked intensely with each other. He unnaturally shifted his gaze away, yet inwardly let out a massive sigh of relief. As long as you like it, that's what matters. There's no need to be polite with me. All right then, I'm gonna go eat. With that said, he instantly stood up, briskly stepping over to the dining table. and began scarfing down his food heartily. That left only Shen Yosua, whose heart was still swirling, with endless doubt as to where he managed to get so much money. Yet she chose not to ask a single question. She simply held the new smartphone in her hands, admiring every inch of it. Wanwan leaned in close from beside her, brimmed with curiosity, staring intently at the fascinating new gadget in her mother's hands. Shen Yosua gently stroked the little girl's head, as both mother and daughter sat side by side, totally absorbed in exploring the new phone together. By the time he finished eating, he was dripping with sweat. He originally intended to go take a quick shower, but the mother and daughter remained out in the living room the whole time, making him feel extremely self-conscious and awkward. In the end, he had no choice but to retreat back to the spare bedroom in slight frustration. Not until 5 o'clock in the afternoon did the sweltering heat outside finally begin to cool down. Shen Yosua lingered on the couch in hesitation for a brief moment, before ultimately picking up the stack of cash left on the table. Right after that, she led Wanwan out the front door. Wanwan hadn't been allowed outside in what felt like forever. The little girl absolutely adored going out to play. But back then, her mother never took her anywhere, and her father strictly forbade them from leaving the house. So stepping out the door this time made her feel utterly ecstatic, clutching her plush doll firmly in one hand. She held her mother's hand with the other, skipping and dancing happily as they walked. Her big, round, sparkling eyes curiously scanned every single thing around them. To her innocent little mind, everything in the outside world was brimming with pure wonder and novelty. Only Shen Yosua felt stiff and deeply uncomfortable. Her footsteps unconsciously picked up the pace, watching the endless stream of pedestrians passing by on the street. A sudden surge of deep insecurity washed over her, especially since she and Wanwan were wearing these ill-fitting, faded clothes, making her constantly feel as though passers-by were casting subtle, judging glances toward them. The shopping mall wasn't too far away. She vaguely recalled that it was just 2 streets over. This place had changed quite a bit compared to her memories. In just a short span of 2 years, the entire area seemed to have been renovated, much more elegantly and lavishly. The moment she stepped through the main entrance, she spotted a mobile phone shop, complete with a service desk for activating SIM cards. Shen Yosua hesitated for a second before guiding the little girl inside. The store was buzzing with customers, and every single employee seemed completely swamped with work, having been completely isolated from social interactions for so long. Shen Yosua stood frozen in place, feeling totally lost and bewildered. Fortunately, a female sales associate caught sight of her and proactively walked over to greet them. She gently patted Wanwan's head first, then flashed a bright, welcoming smile and said, "What an adorable little girl. Are you looking to buy a new phone today, miss?" Hearing someone shower Wanwan with praise, a soft, radiant smile blossomed across Shen Yosua's face as well. Hearing someone heap lavish praise on little Wanwan, a soft, radiant smile instantly broke across Shen Yosua's face. "I'd like to get a new SIM card activated. Is it possible to do that right now?" Keeping a warm smile glued to her face, the female clerk chatted amiably, while guiding Shen Yosua straight over to the customer service counter. "Of course. Right this way, please. We have several different data plans available for you to choose from. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, what brand is your mobile phone? If it happens to be a model distributed by our store, you'll actually qualify for an exclusive discount package." The moment she heard the word discount, Shen Yosua's eyes instantly lit up with a faint sparkle. She hurriedly pulled the brand new smartphone out of her bag and gently presented it directly to the sales clerk. In a soft, hopeful voice, she asked, "Does this phone count? I believe it matches your store's brand, and it was actually just bought brand new this morning." The female associate froze in surprise for a brief instant, looking closely at Shen Yosua once again. The sales volume for this ultra-latest flagship model was exceptionally small this morning. Only a handful were sold, and now someone was coming in specifically to activate a SIM card for it. The clerk immediately remembered the handsome guy who came in earlier that morning. Could it be that this mother and daughter were actually the wife and child of that insanely handsome guy from this morning? It was just that the two of them looked quite haggard, and their worn-out clothes were noticeably ill-fitting. That incredibly handsome young man Didn't look like the type of scumbag who would treat his own family so poorly. The clerk felt a wave of deep confusion, yet she didn't pry any further. Maintaining her warm, professional smile, she let out a soft, pleasantly surprised exclamation. Oh, wow. So the handsome guy who came in to buy this phone earlier this morning is actually your husband. You must truly be one lucky, happy woman. This right here is our store's absolute top-of-the-line model. For this specific phone, you can sign up for our special promotion. Pay $100 and get $100 extra, plus 600 minutes of free talk time. She maintained her incredibly enthusiastic, attentive service, except this time, the target of her high-energy pitch had shifted directly from him to Shun Yosua. Still completely dazed and overwhelmed, Shun Yosua handed over the money and successfully completed her SIM card registration. Even as she took her very first steps out of the mobile shop, the female associate's words were still echoing vividly inside her head, right up until the moment she stepped out of the store. The saleswoman's words were still echoing vividly inside her mind. That clerk's voice was overflowing with warm enthusiasm. Yet she had called that man a good husband. Shun Yosua genuinely wanted to tell her, if he's really such a wonderful man, why don't you take him home yourself? Once she had successfully acquired the new SIM card, Shun Yosua went to set up a brand new bank account, depositing every single cent of cash she had in hand right into it. Deducting the minor fee for activating the SIM, she still had 4,900 renminbi left. He had handed her a crisp 5,000 renminbi in cash. Clutching the new phone and her bank card as she stepped out of the service center, Shun Yosua gazed up at the towering skyscrapers surrounding her and suddenly felt as though she had been brought back to life. Right now, she finally possessed the power to take her daughter and leave him for good. She could rely on this modest sum of money in her hands to find a decent job, supporting both herself and her tiny child, and perhaps even restart her long-lost dream. This overwhelming wave of sudden freedom left Shun Yosua standing completely frozen, in place for a very long time, until a crisp, sweet little child's voice echoed right beside her ear. Mommy, can Wan please get an ice cream cone? She snapped out of her daze instantly. Little Wan was still clutching her hand tightly, her big, round, innocent eyes staring intently at an ice cream shop just a short distance away, looking as though drool was about to drizzle right out from the corners of her tiny mouth. Shun Yosua offered a gentle, radiant smile, a smile so bright, vibrant, and full of life. Of course you can, but you're only allowed to eat just one, okay? Otherwise, your little tummy is going to hurt. Wan cheered, I love Mommy the absolute most in the whole world. With the mother and daughter finally out of the house, you took a thoroughly refreshing, clean shower. You had absolutely no idea that outside, Shun Yosua might potentially never walk back through that front door again. Once you were finished bathing, you began prepping for tonight's dinner. The menu consisted of the usual 2 meat dishes and 2 vegetable sides. You planned to whip up a batch of hot noodle soup tonight as well, but since you had no clue when they'd return, you held off on throwing the noodles into the boiling pot. Just yet, you set the prepared dishes neatly on the dining table, with the hand-cut noodles resting ready on the cutting board. After that, you headed back into the living room and sank into the couch, pulling out your phone to scroll through various educational videos on parenting and child-rearing tips. What to do when kids refuse to eat their food. Just use aggressive, strict discipline, and that'll fix it immediately. This terrible method definitely won't work. Sheep. Right now, Wan was so wonderfully sweet and well-behaved. So how could she ever refuse to eat her food? Besides, facing such a precious little angel, how could he ever bring himself to hurt a single hair on her head? You scrolled continuously until feeling a wave of drowsiness overcome you. You let out a soft, drawn-out yawn, glancing up at the clock in the corner of your phone screen. It was already 7 o'clock in the evening. Why hadn't the mother and daughter returned home yet? You abruptly bolted upright. Could something terrible have happened to the two of them? A sudden, terrifying wave of anxiety surged deep within your chest. You hurriedly stood up, slipping on your shoes, preparing to rush outside to search for them. When the moment you opened the front door, you caught them stepping inside, right from the hallway. A gentle, sweet fragrance drifted into the house along with the breeze. You froze dead in your tracks. Shin-yo-saw, at this very moment, was softly humming an unfamiliar, nameless melody. Her steps light and effortless. The faint upward curve at the corner of her lips proved beyond a doubt that she was currently in an exceptionally good mood. In her hands, she was carrying several shopping bags. Wanwan held tightly onto her mother's shirt hem with one hand, while her other hand was clutching firmly to the plush doll you had gifted her earlier. The main reason that left you so utterly stunned was that both mother and daughter had changed into brand new, perfectly fitting clothes when their lively, adorable almond eyes locked onto yours. They clearly flashed with a momentary hint of surprise. In the very next second, Wanwan sweetly skipped over toward you, chirping out a cheerful, "Daddy," clearly, after a whole day of fun and playing to her heart's content. Along with getting to wear vibrant new clothes, the little girl's mood was over the moon. That single call of "Daddy" nearly made your heart melt on the spot. Your voice trembled slightly as you softly replied, before dropping down onto one knee, gently stroking Wanwan's soft hair, scooping up the tiny, adorable angel into your arms. You took the lead and stepped inside the house. "Daddy's cooking delicious noodle soup for you tonight, okay? How about I throw in 2 sunny eggs as well?" Wanwan loves eating eggs the absolute most. Wanwan loves Daddy the most in the whole wide world. Shin-yo-saw stood at the doorway, feeling completely baffled. Just a moment ago, this little girl said she loved Mommy the most. And in the blink of an eye, she switched sides. So quickly, Wanwan didn't have to wait very long at all. A piping hot, aromatic bowl of noodles topped with fried eggs was whipped up in no time. He brought the steaming bowl right over to her, gently pinching her adorable little nose before habitually turning around to retreat back to his bedroom. The moment he turned his back, a tiny hand suddenly tugged him back, gripping tightly onto the hem of his shirt. "Daddy, can you stay and eat dinner together with Wanwan?" Her soft, precious, needy voice rang out once more. Turning his head back around, he met her big, hopeful eyes and hesitated for a brief moment. He stole a quiet glance over at Shin-yo-saw, who was sitting right beside her. Shin-yo-saw didn't utter a single word, nor did she even glance over in his direction, acting as though she hadn't heard Wanwan's plea at all while, silently keeping her head lowered, eating her own bowl of noodles. He felt completely speechless inside. This whole awkward situation was truly tough to navigate. If she wanted to hold a grudge or confront him, she could just say it directly and get over with, staying totally silent. Like this, what on earth was she trying to express? He could only test the waters with a cautious sentence. "Well then, Daddy will stay right here and eat together with Wanwan, okay? Yes, sit right down next to Wanwan, Daddy." The one who eagerly answered him was Wanwan herself. The little girl excitedly patted the empty chair right beside her. He rubbed his nose sheepishly, looking quite unnatural and stiff, as he carried another freshly made bowl of noodles out from the kitchen, taking a seat right next to Wanwan, with Mommy seated on her left side and Daddy right on her right. Wanwan sat happily right in the middle, surrounded by both of them for the very first time. The beaming smile on her sweet little face never faded for even a second. Even her appetite grew extraordinarily energetic. She gobbled down every last bite, completely finishing a giant, overflowing bowl of noodles. In the end, worrying that the little one might overeat and hurt her belly, Shin-yo-saw finally stepped in to stop her from having any more. Only then did the precious little angel agree to put down her spoon. However, right after dinner was over, Wanwan pleaded for both Mommy and Daddy to play the princess game together with her. Sadly, that wish didn't come true. In the end, it was just him playing alone with the little girl while Shin-yo-saw, right after finishing her evening meal, silently retreated back into the master bedroom. As for her cold reaction, he could completely understand it. The fact that she allowed him to sit at the exact same dinner table must have taken Shin-yo-saw an unimaginable amount of internal, mental struggle to even tolerate. He put himself directly into Shin-yo-saw's shoes to ponder. If he himself had suffered through such horrific, relentless abuse in the past, expecting him to peacefully coexist with the very monster who inflicted all that pain would be absolutely impossible for him as well. Wait, no. If it were his former scum self, his past self would have surely vanished without a trace by now, leaving not a single hint behind, wiped completely off the face of the earth. He patiently played with Wanwan all the way until 9 p.m. When the little girl grew so sleepy she was nodding off, her tiny head wobbling back and forth, yet she stubbornly refused to go to sleep. Throughout this whole time, he also uncovered a deeply concerning issue. Even though Wanwan was already 3 years old this year, she still didn't know how to take off her own shoes. One must realize that a normal 3-year-old child is typically at the age where they begin attending kindergarten. He knew full well that the root cause of this was the deeply toxic and dysfunctional family environment. From before, this wasn't something that could be fixed overnight, yet a wave of heartbreaking agony still rushed through his chest. Right at that moment, Shun Yosua stepped out from the master bedroom. She didn't utter a word, silently observing him and Wanwan on the living room sofa. The gaze in her eyes made her intentions crystal clear. Understanding instantly, he scooped Wanwan up into his arms, planting a soft, gentle kiss upon her adorable little cheek, before whispering warmly, "All right, little Wanwan, it's time for bed, okay? Daddy will play with you again tomorrow. Sound good?" Wanwan, who was half asleep with drowsy eyes, slowly blinked them open. She stared right at his face, then turned her head to look over at Shun Yosua, before suddenly nuzzling her tiny head right into her father's neck. "Tonight, Wanwan wants to sleep together with Daddy." Her sudden request caught him completely off guard, leaving him flustered. While Shun Yosua's expression instantly darkened with a chilly shadow, the scariest part was the sudden, suffocating silence that filled the room. He cast an innocent, helpless look toward Shun Yosua. This was 100 the little girl's own idea. It seriously wasn't him coaxing or instigating her at all. Shun Yosua silently clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white. This ungrateful little girl, all those years spent raising her, felt like a total waste. All those endless years of raising this child felt entirely wasted on her. Barely 2 short days had passed, and yet she had already been completely swayed by his sweet, sugary words. In the end, the precious little angel still got her wish fulfilled. Shun Yosua helped her with a quick, basic bedtime routine, after which the little girl joyfully burrowed straight under her father's blanket. Wanwan was like a tiny, cuddly bear, hugging his neck tightly without any intention of letting go. He simply allowed her to snuggle up to him, just like that. This was his very first time ever putting a child to sleep, so relying heavily on the parenting tips and tricks he had researched online, he softly began reciting a sweet bedtime fairy tale to Wanwan. Very soon after, the little girl felt completely content and fulfilled, drifting off into a deep, peaceful slumber. Early the very next morning, while Wanwan was still sound asleep, he woke up early as usual. He gently pushed open the bedroom door and tiptoed outside, heading to the living room as he prepped for his morning jog. In the very next second, he couldn't even believe his own eyes. He hurriedly rubbed his eyes to double-check. The sticky layer of grime on the living room coffee table had completely disappeared. His eyes slowly lit up with a brilliant, radiant glow, and a warm, genuine smile spread across his face. Today, he stepped out of the house in an unbelievably joyful mood. Between jogging, showering, and cooking, a total of over 2 hours quickly flew by. Once breakfast was all set and ready, his mission today was to wake up his little daughter. Juan stirred awake to the sound of his soft, gentle voice, rubbing her sleepy, drowsy eyes. The very instant her eyes landed on him, an incredibly adorable, innocent smile slowly blossomed across her tiny face. The little angel reached out her 2 soft, delicate arms, making a cute gesture, wanting her father to scoop her up into his arms. He immediately reached out, tenderly lifting her up, helping her put on the brand-new outfit bought yesterday before, carrying her outside to brush her teeth and wash her face. He had watched countless videos, learning how to take care of toddlers. But theory, after all, was just theory on paper. Only when he put it into practice did he truly realize just how incredibly difficult it actually was. The little girl's fragile body felt so delicate that he didn't dare exert any real force, making his entire handling look exceptionally clumsy, awkward, and fumbling, especially when it came to tying up her tiny hair. He felt utterly helpless and defeated, fumbling around awkwardly for ages. He ultimately managed to tie it into a completely lopsided ponytail. "Daddy, you really are a silly dummy." Juan took a glance at her crooked hair in the mirror and instantly pouted, giggling at his utter clumsiness. He gently pinched her tiny, adorable nose, making Juan burst into uncontrollable giggles. The little girl reached out her tiny hands and pinched his nose right back. Shun Yusua stepped out of the master bedroom right then, catching sight of this incredibly heartwarming scene between father and daughter. She didn't utter a single word, silently heading into the kitchen to carry breakfast out to the dining table, perhaps without even realizing it herself. The corner of her lips had subtly curled up into a soft, gentle smile long ago. The family of three sat together, enjoying a simple morning meal. He still didn't pass Juan back to Shin Yosua just yet. Instead, he held her little hand, walking over to the living room sofa to continue playing their royal princess game together. Only this time, while playing and having fun with Juan, he intentionally, subtly imparted a few key concepts into her innocent little mind. Extremely basic numbers, specifically the digits 1, 1, and 0. Ever since realizing Juan's developmental delays, he had secretly formulated a dedicated growth plan. During their daily playtimes, he would cultivate her self-learning ability, starting all the way from fundamental numbers to basic everyday life skills and general knowledge. He was determined to patiently teach Juan everything step by step. Obviously, this wasn't something that could be achieved overnight. Fortunately, Juan was naturally exceptionally clever and sharp. It was just that no one had ever guided or taught her before. Now, under his subtle, invisible guidance, the little girl memorized those concepts at lightning speed, and he noticed that ever since Shun Yosua came back yesterday, it felt as though she had transformed into an entirely different person. The light in her eyes was noticeably brighter and more vibrant than before. This was a wonderfully encouraging sign, making him feel an overwhelming sense of relief deep down in his heart. Shin Yosua, while downloading social media apps on her new phone, kept a quiet eye on the adorable interaction between father and daughter. At this point, she also realized that he was silently using immense patience to educate their child. Watching Juan in complete silence like this, a surge of deep emotion welled up inside her. An indescribably sweet, comforting feeling. She had actually wanted to educate her child for so long. It was just that with their past living conditions, where barely surviving was already an uphill battle, where on earth could she have found the energy or peace of mind to nurture Juan like a normal mother? Juan. Shin Yosua retracted her gaze, refocusing on her phone screen. True to its reputation as the absolute latest smartphone model, the app download speed was lightning fast. In just a few brief seconds, every essential app was fully installed. The exact second Shin Yosua logged into her messaging app, an avalanche of unread notifications flooded her screen. It was from Zhou, the junior assistant who had stuck by her side for 2 full years. Her contact list was sparse to begin with. Aside from him, there were only colleagues from her former agency. Those incessant messages from Zhou, sent all the way from when she got married up until just 2 days ago, had poured in relentlessly without stopping. Most of them were frantic messages asking about her current situation. It was just that all this time, she had never replied to a single one. Looking at that impossibly long stream of text messages, Shun Yosua felt a rare, heartwarming sensation wash over her. She immediately typed back, "I'm so sorry, Zhou. It wasn't convenient for me to reply to your messages before. I'm doing okay right now, so please don't worry too much." Not even 2 seconds after sending the text, the other side instantly replied, "Sister Shun, you finally reappeared. I honestly thought that after getting married, you didn't care about me anymore. Sister Shun, you have no idea. Ever since you vanished from the entertainment industry, the company has been overrun with malicious rumors, especially that insufferable Lu Li. For the past 2 years, she's been running wild like she owns the place, bad-mouthing you to anyone who would listen. She kept saying you got what you deserved. Karma hit you hard. It literally boils my blood Seeing Zhou's furious text, Shin Yosua pressed her lips together softly. What Luli said wasn't wrong. She really had paid a steep, brutal price. Back when she was still at the agency, she had always outshone Luli, so it was only natural for that woman to gloat and kick her while she was down once she left. Zhou, how have you been lately? Is life going okay for you? Is life treating you all right? Shin Yosua didn't address the bitter complaints from Zhou. Instead, she softly asked how the young girl was holding up. I'm totally fine, Sister Shun. Don't you worry. I'm an indestructible cockroach that just won't stay down. It's just, I miss you so much, Sister Shun. Will you ever make a comeback in the industry? Shin Yosua froze for a brief moment, a sudden flicker of longing flashing deep inside her eyes. Can I really ever go back? She turned her head to look at him, then shifted her gaze over to little Wan. A moment later, that tiny spark of hope in her eyes gradually dimmed. Probably not. But if you miss me, Zhou, we can definitely set up a time to grab dinner together soon, okay? Meanwhile, inside the Timmy building in downtown, Jiangcheng, a petite girl barely 160 centimeters tall, had just set down the heavy equipment on her shoulders, her hands instantly grabbing her phone to type furiously. But right in the next second, an ear-splitting female voice brutally shattered her moment of joy. Zhou, are you slacking off again? Get back to work right now. Do you seriously still think you're the assistant of some big shot, A-list celebrity like before? If you don't want to work, pack up your crap and get out of my sight. The owner of that toxic voice was a woman with sharp, mean-spirited facial features. She held her chin high, her narrow eyes gleaming with blatant disgust and sheer contempt. What are you staring at? Hurry up and haul that equipment into the recording studio. If you delay my recording session today, can nobody like you even afford to compensate me? Zhou shot the woman a side-eye glance, but silently hoisted the heavy gear back onto her shoulder and shuffled toward the recording room. Sound great, Sister Shun. I have this Saturday off, so let me know when you're free. Shin Yosua stared at that friendly text message, and a soft, genuine smile finally blossomed on her lips. She scrolled for a bit longer, seeing no other unread messages, and switched over to her social media app. The very last post on her personal profile had been frozen in time for 2 full years. It was her official statement announcing her retirement from the entertainment industry. Her follower count, which once hovered in the hundreds of thousands, had now plummeted down to a mere few thousand leftover accounts. The number of followers dropped from hundreds of thousands down to a mere few thousand people. Aside from inactive bot accounts, there were still a handful of fiercely loyal, dedicated fans who regularly dropped sweet comments expressing their care for her. She scrolled through the hot, trending news online, mostly trashy, superficial celebrity gossip lately. But among the headlines, a few viral posts kept mentioning a hit song currently taking the internet by storm. Forever With You, otherworldly divine melody, a mysterious singer oozing sheer charm. With just one single video, he gained millions of followers overnight. Who on earth is he? Deep dive analysis breaking down the viral masterpiece taking over the web. The phone screen automatically transitioned over to a trending video interface. The instantly recognizable sound of acoustic guitar strumming echoed out. The living room fell dead silent in an instant, leaving only the soulful, echoing vocals filling all 3 of their ears. He shyly turned his face away, blushing slightly. Wan blinked her big, round eyes before excitedly pouncing into Shun Yosua's lap, staring intently at the glowing phone screen together with her. Shin Yosua was utterly stunned. This deeply familiar singing voice. Wasn't this the exact same song coming from his room 2 nights ago? So that day, he was actually recording this very video. It was quick-witted little Wan who spoke up first. The little girl pointed her tiny finger directly at the screen, looking up at Shun Yosua with pure excitement. Look, Mommy, that's Daddy. Daddy's inside the phone. That really is Daddy, sweetie. Shin Yosua gently stroked her tiny head, answering softly as the realization finally hit her. Now she understood how he suddenly had so much money to buy all that brand new furniture and home furnishings. When a video reaches millions of likes, How could there not be serious money coming in? She turned her head to gaze at his sharp, masculine profile, her eyes filled with a complex whirlpool of emotions, getting that enthusiastic confirmation from her mother. Wanwan grew even more ecstatic, gleefully throwing herself straight into his warm embrace. Her two tiny, soft hands squished on her father's cheeks, her bright eyes shimmering with boundless admiration. The little girl squealed out in an adorable, sweet voice, "Daddy sounds so gentle." Wanwan wants to learn how to sing too, feeling those soft, tiny hands pressed against his cheeks. The look in his eyes melted into pure warmth and tenderness. He gently cupped her chubby little cheeks with his own big hands. He also used both of his massive hands to lift, cupping her cute little face in his hands. Does Wanwan love singing too? I love it super much. Wanwan squinted her big eyes, answering him without a single second of hesitation. He beamed radiantly. All right then, Daddy will teach Wanwan how to sing. Once Wanwan learns it by heart, we can film a video together too. Sound good? Wanwan nodded her head frantically, joyfully planting a giant wet kiss right on his cheek to express her overflowing love. Receiving such a sweet reward, a huge grin instantly burst across his face, under his daughter's idolizing, starry-eyed gaze. He hurriedly dashed back to the guest bedroom, carrying his acoustic guitar back out. Returning to the living room sofa, he cradled the guitar in his arms and began tuning the strings. Turning his head, he caught both Shun Yo-soa and Wanwan, staring at him intently without even blinking. A rare, subtle flush of crimson flushed across his cheeks. He then gently ran his fingers across the guitar strings. Today, Daddy is going to write a song specially dedicated just for you. Daddy will sing it through once for Wanwan to hear, okay? After that, Daddy will sing line by line, and Wanwan can sing along with Daddy, deal? Wanwan nodded happily, her tiny face filled to the brim with pure anticipation. This song is called An Explosion of Courage. Listen carefully, Wanwan. Saying that, he softly plucked the guitar strings, and a cheerful, uplifting melody began echoing throughout the entire living room. The little girl's sense of rhythm was shockingly impressive. She bopped her tiny head back and forth, grooving along to the beat. He couldn't help himself, either, joining right in and swaying back and forth along with his little princess. Watching this perfect, adorable synergy between father and daughter, the look in Shun Yo-soa's eyes gradually softened. A tender, quiet smile imperceptibly bloomed across her lips, and she involuntarily found herself grooving along to their rhythm as well. This was the very first time the whole family was collectively immersed in an ocean of absolute bliss and happiness. In this magical moment, the entire living room seemed to glow, right alongside their heartfelt singing and laughter. Wan clenched her tiny fists tightly, striking an ultra-heroic, powerful superhero pose. At this point, he set his guitar down as well, mimicking all the cute, adorable poses of his little daughter. Then reaching out a finger, he gently booped the tip of Wanwan's tiny nose. Wanwan threw herself directly into his open arms, her two tiny hands wrapping tightly around her father's neck. Daddy, Wanwan loves this daddy so much. Daddy, please never go back to how you were before, okay? Wanwan's sweet, innocent voice echoed softly right in his ear, causing him to instantly freeze up. His eyes suddenly blurred with a heavy, overwhelming wave of tears. He embraced Wanwan tightly in his arms, burying his face deep in her tiny shirt. Daddy, we'll never, ever be like that again, my precious sweetheart. His voice was thick and raspy, yet filled with absolute conviction. Shun Yo-soa couldn't see his face at that moment, but tears had already streamed silently down her cheeks. Long ago, even so, a quiet, beautiful smile bloomed on her lips. She knew deep down that those dark, soul-crushing days of the past would never return again. It was guaranteed. In the end, he was the one who pulled himself together first. He set the guitar gently to the side and lifted Wanwan up to sit right on his lap. All right, Wanwan. Now, let's officially start learning how to sing. Okay, Daddy will sing one line, and you'll sing right after me. Line by line. Deal? Yes. Wanwan agrees. The rest of the time quickly transformed into a cozy music lesson for father and daughter. Throughout the entire morning, the whole room was constantly filled with their cheerful singing, Seeing the two of them so completely absorbed in practice, Shun Yosoa silently slipped away to prep lunch. However, her culinary skills were nowhere near as good as his, which meant that during lunchtime, Wanwan kept whining and pouting nonstop, announcing that from now on, she only wanted to eat meals made by Daddy's hands. This cheeky declaration forced Shin Yosoa to shoot the little girl a playful, sulky side-eye, feeling a funny, mock sense of betrayal in her heart. You ungrateful little creature. It's only been 2 days, and you've already been totally bought off? This warm, wholesome family atmosphere made him feel exceptionally relaxed and grounded. This was what a real, loving home was truly supposed to feel like. Wanwan was an incredibly fast learner. In just 3 short days, the little girl was able to sing the entire song flawlessly, an explosion of courage. And following Wanwan's enthusiastic, pleading request, he filmed a cute video for her and posted it online. In the video, Wanwan was wearing a fluffy pink princess dress with a huge, cute bow tie perched on her hair. Her tiny body bobbed up and down to the music, looking utterly adorable, playful, and full of life. While filming her, he couldn't stop grinning from ear to ear, his face beaming with an unmistakable, glowing, "This is my daughter," expression, a look filled with sheer pride. In pure satisfaction, Shinyo saw, standing off to the side and taking in this heartwarming scene, caught a glimpse of his priceless expression and almost burst out laughing so hard she lost her breath. This was truly the very first time she had ever seen him acting like this. Throughout the course of the past 3 days, thanks to his continuous, positive efforts, the frozen relationship between the two had softened significantly. In fact, Shinyo Soa was now even taking the initiative to start casual conversations with him. Absolutely no one could have predicted that the second video from a channel named Buffon would turn out to be a nursery rhyme for kids. The song was yet another completely original masterpiece, its infectious melody just as captivating to listeners as before. Over at the social media platform's headquarters, Liu Yin was the very first person to stumble upon the new video. After watching the content all the way through, he didn't hesitate for a single second to grant it the highest priority recommendation, an algorithm push. A precious little angel, this adorable, paired with a song this insanely catchy. Liu Yin grinned radiantly, with complete satisfaction, his beaming face unable to hide his excitement. Right after that, the trending search rankings erupted once again into total chaos. Before the hype from the previous track could even settle down, a massive storm, named an explosion of courage, swept across the internet. The sheer viral heat of this video was even more explosive than the last one. In the span of just a single afternoon, the like count shattered the 5 million mark. The overwhelming flood of comments was so insanely high it was almost unbelievable. Yet this viral sensation forced him, later that evening, to switch his phone right back onto silent mode. Holding little Wanwan while sitting on the living room sofa, he excitedly scrolled through the comment section without a shred of boredom. The commenters in this thread were absolute comedic geniuses, keeping him entertained so much that he couldn't bring himself to stop reading. "If I had a daughter as precious as this, I wouldn't let a single punk-ass brat anywhere near her." Chest puffed out proud, stepping closer toward the little girl.